underrated thing is just don't overthink. I don't overthink the podcast. I don't overthink what I'm uploading. I don't overthink that I don't have a great closing and I don't have a pre-recorded intro and I don't have, it is working. My podcast is blowing up. Like, it does not matter. Nobody cares. And it inspires people to do their own because they're like, she has how many downloads? Like, shut up. Wait a minute. And she does not even have the little, like, I don't even have a song. You know how there's like all the songs and the jingles? Like, I don't have a jingle. Okay. I don't have any of that. And it's amazing. So I would say overrated or whatever. Overrated, all this extra stuff. Underrated, just do it.
This Audience Summit is brought to you in partnership with Podcast Notes, the best ideas from the world's best podcasts in minutes. Jessie, welcome to the Grow Your Podcast Audience Summit, brought to you by Lewis and Kyle Show.
Well, I'm super excited to be here. Hello. My name is Jessie Lee. You can call me #BossLee, and I'm excited to contribute. So thanks for having me, guys. It's gonna be fun.
Real quick, for those who aren't familiar with Boss Lee, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what your podcast is about and the mission of the show?
So I am Jessie Lee. My last name's Ward, actually, but I live in Frisco, Texas, which I love. I am a serial entrepreneur. And so my podcast is really based around that. It's very much so a tactical approach to how to actually build a business, which I think there's a lot of sort of fluff work just in general, like in any kind of education, any kind of podcasting, any kind of anything. There's a lot of like, let's get your mind right. Let's feel better about ourselves, whatever. And I wanted to create a podcast that was just different. And it sort of started a little over 2 years ago and as like almost where I would brain dump training ideas. And then it evolved, thanks to Corona, to be totally honest, into a daily podcast where it has expanded like nuts. I hit the 1 million downloads last month. We're at 1.5 million already this month. It's sort of in hyper speed at this point, which is really awesome. And then so the mission behind it, I guess, is really just to teach real people how to build real businesses, whether that's through social media, whether that's through a belly-to-belly approach, whether that's through, well, pretty much everything social media except for paying for ads. But it's very real. This is how I did it. This is how you can do it. Tactical advice as well.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that context with us.
Yeah.
The first question we have for you, which is amazing that you have 1.5 million downloads. Congratulations.
Yeah,
so the question is, what's been the most effective marketing channel for growing that audience and how have you used it?
Yeah, so I'm 100% organic in everything I do. So on all my platforms, no matter how fast they build or how fast they grow, everything I've done is actually organic. So I did a couple of things, I guess. So I think you had Brad on your show, Brad Lee. 3 years ago, I was on his podcast, which was, it was the second podcast I was a guest on. And I kept thinking to myself, oh my God, like I need to do a podcast. I am chatty and I have a really big personality and it transfers very well over audio. And then I kept listening to Gary Vee say, you gotta do podcasts, whatever. And audio is the future. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do this podcast thing, but I'm going to do this podcast thing. And it started almost as, I have a very large team in a network marketing company, and I wanted to give them another training platform for people who maybe weren't watching my videos or weren't reading my posts. I was like, okay, well, we have a lot of moms, we have a lot of students, we have a lot of busy people. What would they actually do? And it turned out if I recorded 20-minute podcasts of this is what you should do, people were literally doing what I said to do. So it started like that. And I guess that was kind of the first little growth thing is I had a group of people that I knew I could say, here's your homework assignment, go listen to a 20-minute podcast. But that didn't really grow anything, right? That was just that was like that very organic reach. Then I said, you know what, screw this. I'm going to ask for referral for reviews. So I would screenshot my little Apple iTunes thing, where it's like not enough reviews to say what the rating is. I was like, oh, this is depressing. And I'd put that in my Instagram story and I'd be like, oh, the People's Mentor podcast, go to the link tree in the bio. And I guess it worked kind of, whatever. And then it started getting traction. I started doing an intro where I would say, if you find value, screenshot this, put it in your Instagram story, tag me, tag some friends, I'll do some giveaways, right? And so it started to slowly. And then, but even then I was only recording once a week. And so I kind of already mentioned it, but I decided when Corona happened, I'm like, everybody has time. So what can I do when everybody has time? And I started sliding in DMs of people, right? And I was like, hey, Hey, what's up? You quarantine? What you doing this weekend? Oh, right, nothing. I mean, it didn't really go like that, but that was pretty much the premise of my DMs. And I was just like, are you open to being on my show? I have a podcast that has 600, I think it had maybe less than that, maybe 400 at the time, 5-star reviews, not even a single 4-star review. Do you think you would come on? And everybody was like, yes. Everybody was saying yes. So, I had Rob Dyrdek on my show. I've had, Bradley's been on my show. Tons and tons of big business people in my space as well have been on the show. Trent Shelton's been on my show. I'm actually going to be on Trent's podcast pretty soon here also. So we're going to record, I think, this weekend. But like, there's so much of this that helped grow the show. And you never know if you don't reach out. Elena Cardone, I'm trying to think of all the people now. But I just started reaching and saying, hey, do you want to do a quick interview? It'll be fun, entertaining. I swear, like, I'm pretty good at interviewing. I think you'll enjoy it. I think you could offer a lot of value. And I at this point they call themselves the Lee Hive. They name themselves, but I have a very voracious, excited following. So anytime somebody is interviewed by me, they get a huge spike in their followers. Or if I'm interviewed by somebody, these Lee Hivers, man, I'm telling you, they go crazy. There's no built followers, bought followers, whatever over here. So every single influencer I've actually ever interviewed, which is a great way to build your podcast, has all commented on like, oh my God, like you're actually the real deal. I'm like, yes. So that was useful. I started doing giveaways on Mondays. So I called them Money Mondays, and all of the 5-star reviews are entered into every single week into a drawing for whatever the podcast episode is in dollar amount. So they have 24 hours to then, repost the podcast, 24 hours to reach back out to me, tag 2 people, again, on Instagram stories, because it's a lot of organic reach. And they just have to leave a nice review that I end up reading on the podcast. So there's a fan of every episode. Like, I pick a review of every episode, but then on Money Mondays, I do the giveaway. So like this last Monday, I gave somebody, I think it was $271. I think 271 was episode 271. And like, that's life-changing income for some people for doing nothing but listening to a podcast that teaches you how to make money. Like legit teaches you how to make money. And then now you also made money because you actually were a participating listener. So, and then I don't know, like mentioning it here and there. I mention it a lot. I mention it on live video all the time. I pretty much live on live video. So I'll mention, like who liked the episode of the podcast? And then, a bunch of people will say, wait a minute, like, where's the podcast? Oh, link tree in the bio. And yeah, those are all really tactical things, but that's how my podcast is too. But that's basically just collaboration.
All of that is genius. It's incredible that the organic growth from 400,000 at the beginning of Corona to 1.5 million now. And it's funny that Lewis and I, we started our podcast during the middle of the quarantine, like right at the beginning, really. And that was kind of our thesis as well, is like, people aren't doing anything. Like we're going to shoot our shot. We've got a better chance of converting these cold emails or cold asks if we have a podcast and like something to give. And then just to touch on the point about like everybody that you interview or interviews gets a huge bump in their followers. Like that is exactly what I want from our podcast, is like eventually for whoever we interview, for them to give an hour of our time and for us to provide real value to them through our audience. That's amazing. The second question,
say like interview people that you're actually not necessarily in agreement with everything they say, but aligned with. Like one of the things I love about Joe Rogan is he'll interview everybody's like with different belief systems, but they still have to like be good people. Do you know what I mean? And so I just always stay true to who I am. And so I literally will not introduce my audience to somebody that I'm like, I don't know if they'll like this person, if that makes sense. I think that helped a lot as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just listening to Joe Rogan a few minutes ago, and they were talking about how he's always like introducing people that, seem controversial, but at the end of the day, like they're good people. So it's funny that you say that. But the second question for you and for everybody that's participating in our audience summit is, what are some underrated tactics that you've used to attract listeners to your show? So things that I know you listed a lot of tactics, but maybe one that you didn't think would work or people told you was kind of dumb and then ended up being very valuable.
I think people are kind of scared to tell me that my ideas are dumb. But no, underrated tactics. I don't know, something that I didn't mention that I think is really important is I I think a lot of podcasters are scared, or just people in general. This is like a business in general kind of thing, but they're scared to ask for what they want. And I am not scared to ask for what I want. So if I open my podcast every single time and I'm like, you just listened for free. Okay. So your payments today is a subscription, is a review, and is a share. I would love that and appreciate it so much. And then I also put it, of course, in my bio as well. That has been really beneficial too, just asking. I'll give you an overrated one. This is months ago now, but I had a staff member who was actually, this is so long ago now, it's almost like irrelevant, but my ex-boyfriend was on my staff. He was supposed to run like my podcast page and whatever. And he was like, it's very important that you have a very, professional looking podcast page, landing page, so people can, and I'm like, what? Like, make sure your show notes are all whatever. Okay. So like I said, we broke up a long time ago now. Ain't not there, there ain't even a podcast page. My swipe up in my link tree, like this is how real I am. My swipe up in my link tree takes you to the Google search because it's ranked on 6 continents. So I literally Googled the People's Mentor podcast, and like the Google search is 1 million pages long. And I'm like, I literally hyperlinked the Google search. Like just click like that. Like the idea that things have to be perfect in order for this to work for you is so silly to me. Like I'm a bit of a disaster, but I think that is also how I attract people who just think they're not good enough to do business, or they're not smart enough to do business, or whatever their limiting beliefs are. But don't overthink. I think underrated thing is just don't overthink. I don't overthink the podcast. I don't overthink what I'm uploading. I don't overthink that I don't have a great closing and I don't have a pre-recorded intro and I don't have, it is working. My podcast is blowing up. Like it does not matter. Nobody cares. And it inspires people to do their own because they're like, she has how many downloads? Like, shut up. Wait a minute. And she does not even have the little, like, I don't even have a song. You know how there's like all the songs and the jingles? Like, I don't have a jingle. Okay. I don't have any of that. And it's amazing. So I would say overrated or whatever. Overrated, all this extra stuff. Underrated, just do it.
I think that's a lot of people who have participated in this have just said kind of an underrated tactic is having quality content and they just leave it there. But I think you kind of just explained why and how that's true, which I really appreciate. You're like, it doesn't matter. No one cares I don't have a song because no one listens to your podcast for the song. It's a nice touch if you have it, but they're not going to listen to the song if you don't have good content. So you just are over delivering and you're super exciting and fun and high energy and entertaining and teaching about business. So people keep coming back. But the third question I have for you, I kind of want to bring back up a point you brought up on the answer to the first question here is the Lee Hive, which is so many people have come on the summit and talked about the importance of building community. And it seems like you've had a self-organizing community, which is absolutely incredible. So in what ways do you think you've created this effect where listeners have become fans, and how have you kept them coming into your show over and over again? Like what do you attribute this community organizing to?
So this is a loaded question, but I love it. So I like to treat social media how I want to be treated on social media. Does that make sense? Like I could literally leave it at that and you can figure it out for yourself, but I won't do that to you. I want to be commented back to. I want to be responded to when I DM you. I want to get a double tap heart here and there. I want to see you on live video. I want to know who the people are who I'm giving money to, or I'm actually following. So the Lee Hive is, it's a long thing now. This is kind of like a, I've been an entrepreneur for almost 10 years. Boss Lee alter ego was born 6 years ago. And then the Lee Hive named themselves in the last year, but there were all these, just kind of raving fans. And I just asked myself, like, what would I want if I were a raving fan of something? What do I attach to? It's like, I'll use this example. Like if you think of your favorite celebrity, I don't know who that would be, but like I kind of joked around all through quarantine. I'm like, can you imagine if Beyonce, who doesn't even follow her husband on Instagram, but can you imagine if Beyonce commented back on something of yours? Like if you commented and were like, yes, B, whatever. And if she were like, thank you so much for this comment, you like, or whatever, or even just put a heart, you would screenshot it. People would probably print it out and frame it. Like they would freak out because they love her. So I just thought, okay, I just want to know I just want to react to people the way that I want to be reacted to. So if I'm live and people are commenting, I want to comment back. I want to start to know their usernames. I want to start to recognize their faces. I want to start to give the people what they want, for a lack of any better explanation. And it just comes in the form of caring. Like, if somebody reshares my podcast, here's another tactic. I have an amount of these I do every single day, where I take my phone and I respond to their podcast share with a video just saying, I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing, listening, and reviewing. Have an awesome rest of your day, Lewis. And then it's a 10-second video. If I do 5, 10, 15, 20 of those a day, people are like, what? Their minds are blown. I'm turning people into super fans. And because of that, I tell them again what to do. I'm like, subscribe to me. Don't just sometimes find a live video of mine. Like, turn on live notifications. I know you need my energy, or whatever it is. I'm just showing them the different ways of actually running their life. And then people appreciate that. And now they're like, we want swag, we want whatever. But community is everything, because this is I forget who was the first one I read. Maybe Tim Ferriss was the first person I heard say this, but he basically said, you only need like 100 people who are obsessed with you to make $100,000 a year. And I was like, really? And, I'm blessed to make far more than that a year, but it's because there's a lot of raving fans in the Lee Hive. So they'll hashtag Lee Hive on stuff. They're all over the place, but it really is a community. And I think when people can align with you and your value system, they're very quick to bring their friends into it. Oh my God, you're kind of low energy today. You need Jessie Lee. Hey girl, like, you're negative like that. This is the most positive girl on the internet. Go over here. You need Jessie Lee. Oh my God, do you want to laugh? Like, she is funny. You need Jessie Lee in your life. Like, over and over and over again, by you showing up, you literally show people who you are as a person, and they are much more likely to bring their friends and family into your community as well.
Absolutely. I think that through this, I think we've done 22 different interviews. And if we were to pick out a pattern amongst the highest performing podcasts, that continuous audience engagement where, they're responding to every DM, emailing people back, has been probably the number one pattern that's shown up. So like, if you're listening to this, that's what you got to do. You gotta go the extra mile, comment back, and really go there. But the fourth question for you is, if you could start your show over again, what would you do differently now to grow it more effectively?
I would just start from day one and do it every day. I didn't do one podcast a day until, like I said, quarantine, which was almost 2 years into the podcast. That was a mistake. Once a week, once every 2 weeks, that's not consistent enough. You need to put out content.
Great answer. Thank you. Last question for you. So you've been organic up until this entire point, and this might not be a large budget, so you'll have to get creative in a small way. But if, courtesy of the Lewis and Kyle show, we gave you $1,000 to spend in any way to attract people to your show or to market your podcast, what would you do with the money?
I wouldn't even know where to start. I've never even ran a Facebook ad. Like, I'm the worst. I don't know. Maybe I wear I know what I would do. I would probably go make like the People's Mentor swag. Like, I'd have some like gangster swag, and then I would wear it on my live videos, and that would still be organic. I'm terrible. I don't know. I wouldn't know how to, I don't know.
Yeah. We've had people answer cash giveaways, things like that.
I already do those though. Totally, so yeah. Like,
yeah, we'd just be sponsoring about 3 of them, I guess.
Yeah. I guess you could sponsor my giveaways. Yeah, I don't know. It probably would still be pretty organic, just because I don't feel like I have enough knowledge around any kind of sponsoring anything like that. But yeah.
I guess it would kind of be a free experiment for you to buy yourself the merch, and then if people are, hey, where the hell do I get this? We ran that experiment for free for you, I guess, is what it would be.
Right.
And that's valuable, right? Buy yourself the merch, and if no one says it, I guess you just bought yourself some expensive clothes. But if no one wants it, then who cares? I appreciate so much you coming on and participating in this. Like I said, and like you said, Jessie Lee energy, the summit needed some, and we're really happy that you came on. So if people want to find you, where should we direct them?
Well, thank you, by the way, for having me. I'm Boss Lee on all platforms. So I am BOSSLE. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Jessie Lee Ward, People's Mentor podcast. Everything is obviously hyperlinked with emails, etc. But I'm very easy to find on the internet.
Well, this has been awesome. We love the energy. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much for watching this interview. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe to our channel right here on YouTube. And if you feel like you learned something, share this episode on social media to help us grow our audience as well.